Welcome to another episode of Business Bros. What up, ladies and gentlemen? Hernan Cias here, host of the Business Bros podcast, where we're helping you take control of your marketing, your branding, using the power of podcasting. And today, I got a marketing specialist on the call with me, on the podcast with me today. We met at an event. He did some speaking. It was very informative. This young man's got a lot to share with you guys, a lot of experiences, a lot of fuck ups, because that's where we met at the fuck up night, and a lot of success. So without further ado, Raul Ramirez, welcome to the program.
Thank you, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, man. So my audience doesn't really get to know you that much. So tell me a little bit about where you came from, how you got into this whole marketing gig.
Okay. So I pretty much got into marketing when I started my very first business or brand. I had already been, studying marketing and things like that, but it didn't really happen for me until I started my own brand, which was around like 24. I started a clothing brand with one of my best friends at the time. It was my first business, so I was pretty much, a two-man show, and I had to learn how to do everything. So I had to learn how to do a website from scratch. I had to learn how to, understand a little bit of code. I had to learn how to run campaigns. I pretty much had to learn how to do everything from scratch, because when you go to school, they don't really, teach you these things. And even though I took marketing classes, it was outdated. So the brand didn't work out. The business failed because we had some issues with my partner at the time. And after that, I pretty much I liked marketing. I liked, the things that I learned, and I just pretty much started doing it on the side, and then working for companies. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago that I just decided to quit my job, and I said, I'm just gonna go out on my own and offer marketing services as a full-time gig. And as when I spoke in the Fuck Up Nights Volume 2, it was tough, man. It was tough at first. Believing in myself and really stepping up and pretty much taking control over the way the meetings went with clients and things of that matter. So that's pretty much my background. It kind of happened by accident, just like with the wine. So yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about like growing up. You come from a background of entrepreneurs, so it's not like this is something new to you. You kind of grew up in that space.
Right. Yeah. So as I mentioned in the event, like my parents have been entrepreneurs for a very long time. We lived in Mexico. My parents had about 7 businesses at the time. So they had perfume stores, they had candy stores, they had a hardware store, and then my dad even had in Mexico. We had these stores where they sell strictly beer. So it's kind of like a liquor store, but just beer. Mm-hmm. So my dad had one of those. And whenever I would get in trouble at school, like my mom would ground me, and my dad would just be like, hey, you're not going to stay home. You're just going to come work with me. So he would just wake me up early. I would go work with him. And then on the weekends, we had this thing where like Sundays was my day at one of the stores, because he just opened from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And my dad would say like, hey, Sundays are going to be your day. Like, I'm going to pay you for it. I need you to like oversee the business and make sure that, whoever's there like is operating properly and all that kind of stuff. So I always grew up with that mindset, like my mindset was always just, hey, be your own boss, start your own business and things of that matter. So after high school, it was really tough to go into the workforce because I always had trouble with that. I just had trouble with just going to an establishment from, 8
clocking
to 5.
Clocking in,
clocking out, like
having people tell you what to do.
Having people tell you what to do, having people ask like, hey, where are you? Like, hey, like I'm in the bathroom, like,
relax, bro. I'll be right out.
Yeah, exactly. So I always had an issue with that. It was definitely always like it was what's the word for it? It was almost like it was just like I would just always dwell about it. Like I'd be like, okay, I need to get a better job, or I want to get a job with a better company and things like that. But it just even if I get a job at a chill company or a chill job or whatever, where I was allowed to,
kind of relax or do your own thing,
or do my own things or things of that matter, it just didn't cut it for me.
So why didn't you go back and like work for your parents?
So the thing with that is We all moved over here to the U.S. in '03. Degree in engineering. And my dad's always had experience in aerospace, so he's an aerospace engineer. So he would always go back and forth, right? He would always get these like jobs that they would call him from, be like, hey, you know, like we need an engineer, like you have experience, because my dad's worked for Boeing and big companies like that. And then things started getting unsafe in Mexico. So in '03, my dad was like, hey, you know, like it's time to go. Let's go back to the US. So we came back, and that was actually brutal for me, because we came back and I saw my dad have a full-time job. You know, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. Sometimes she would get jobs and she would work for a little bit and then she wouldn't work and things of that matter. And for me, I was just always asking my parents, I was like, hey, how come you guys don't start a business over here? You know, and the response was kind of always like, it's not that easy over here. You know, like the investments are, you know, larger and things of that matter. So I think that in a way they kind of lost their way. You know, I think that maybe being in a foreign country, they had some fear or things of that matter, which is understandable. So that's the reason why I didn't work for them. You know,
That makes sense.
or go back to work for them. Yeah.
So then how'd you get the goal to, like, you know, go ahead and venture out on your own? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you could have gotten a job. You could have
Right.
just kind of like, you know, closed your mouth and, you know, clocked in and clocked out and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you decided to go, of all things, in like marketing space, and it kind of
Mm-hmm.
opened your door to a couple different things.
Right.
What was your mentality when you finally are gonna let go and get on your own?
Mm-hmm. So I think I was fed up, bro. I think for me, it was that constant battle every day of like having to wake up at a certain time, you know, having to clock in, having to clock out for lunch, having to clock back in, and then clocking out, and then doing the same shit every day. I think that was just extremely tough for me, because I'm the type of person that I like challenges and I like adventure. You know, like I like the days to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I understand that for any type of project, there's some type of routine uh, that happens. But for me, that was it. Just like, to me, working an 8 to 5 is just like slow death. You know, it's
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
I just don't do well with that. You know, and I think as you've seen in for example, on Fuck Up Nights, like I'm very I speak my mind out, right? So I'm not afraid of saying what I think. And in the workplace, that doesn't fly. You know, I mean, I've gotten in trouble in previous jobs for speaking my mind out, or for bringing proposals to the table on you know, how to increase sales or marketing and things like
And
that.
stay in
And
your lane, bro. Right? Stay in your
yeah,
lane.
and that's
Yeah.
what they tell me. You know, they tell me like, hey, you know what, like thank you for the info, but we're not gonna do that. And then people start disliking you in the workplace. You know, they say like, what does that guy think? Who does he think he is? You know, to bring these radical ideas to the table.
Trying to upstage him. That's what's going on. That's what's going on.
Yeah,
So,
of
all right.
course.
So you go out on your own. What kind of products did you end up, you know,
Mhm,
dabbling into right off the bat,
mhm,
right after the clothing?
mhm. So the very first full-on client that I had was an e-commerce client. So they sold products for dogs. They sold pretty much like leashes. They sold like compression. I think they call them like compression shirts or something like that for dogs. Because apparently that helps with their anxiety and things like that. And I mean, obviously, we live in crazy times where people treat dogs like they're, you know,
People.
people. So that was my very first client. They had an Amazon store. They had a direct sales website. And I pretty much started doing for them PPC campaigns and social media management. So that was like my very first product right off the bat after my own brand.
What year was that
Mhm.
roughly?
That was like 2 years ago. Yeah. So that was when I first started. So like 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not
two
bad
years
then.
ago.
So
Yeah.
doing PPC
So
and social media management. And
yeah.
then you ventured off into some other stuff, because when I met you, you were
Hmm.
doing you're doing the wine and you have the
Hmm.
coffee.
Right. Yeah. So
Perfect
I start
combination, by the way. Drink enough wine and then have coffee the next day.
I have coffee the next day to go back to life. Right. Yeah. Um, yeah. So with the wine, it happened by accident as well. I don't know if I told you guys the story, but I pretty much went to TJ one day to have dinner. I had a very good wine. I really liked it. And then fast forward maybe like uh, a year after that, I went to Valle Guadalupe for New Year's. And I started driving the wine route, and I saw that there was a sign that said Nativo, which is the winery that I partner up with. I decided to, take the detour and go check them out. It was January 1st. And luckily there was people in one of the cabins that were drinking wine, and I asked for the owner. He was there. He came out, and I told him about my experience. He said, like, hey, like, that's not my wine. He's like, there's another winery that makes one label that has the same name as their brand. So I said, that's fine. I was like, I don't care. Can I try some of your wine? So he gave me a sample. I love the wine. I actually purchased some that day. And when I went home and I drank the wine, I liked it even more. So I gave him a call and I said, hey, like, I want to do business with you. Like, I have an idea to start importing your wine into the US. And then from there on, everything just started evolving. I started getting ideas on, like, building a Mexican or like a Mexican beverage distribution company. So right now we're doing wine. We're doing the Mexican coffee, which is a brand that me and my mom started. And then I also partner up with one of my good friends from my hometown that he produces mezcal. So we're doing mezcal as well. I'm also
Mezcal is like a tequila, right?
Yeah. So what mezcal is, it's pretty much like an artisan beverage. So they skip a couple processes from tequila. So it's more of like an artisan beverage.
Okay. Okay.
And then from there on, I've just gone and connected with other people that produce different distilled beverages in Mexico, and I'm in the talks with them to build a portfolio of strictly Mexican artisan beverages that we're gonna sell to hotels, restaurants, and hopefully be able to build some type of membership online to get it directly to the consumer.
How has everything with the COVID stuff going on, how has that affected your business, your plans, your sales?
Mm-hmm. Oh, bro, everything's on pause right now. I had a bunch of meetings scheduled to do wine tastings for like new restaurants that I was gonna bring on board, and everything's on hold. So right now, the things that are keeping me afloat is the marketing.
As far as like marketing to companies, even then,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like I know a lot of businesses have been pulling back. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I keep talking about I'm launching my podcast program to help people launch their own podcast, right? Because my thing is I want them to take control of the branding, take control of their marketing, because nobody's going to be as effective in sharing their story as they are, right? But they need people like you to help kind of catapult that. Once I create my pieces of content, well, there are other people in industries like yours that can take that content and open it up to even more eyes. Right. But even then there's people who are like, I don't know where my next check's going to come in. I don't know how many of my clients are going to go away. I'm going to hit the pause button on my marketing campaign. What are you hearing out there from clients as far as marketing?
So as far as the marketing, I'll be honest with you, like a few of my clients paused everything. They said like, hey, like right now we can't operate, given the fact that everybody has to stay home. And for example, some of my biggest clients are attorneys. So right now, a lot of the courts are closed. A lot of people are not working and things of that matter. So they had to pause. So obviously that affects everybody, right? But in terms of like marketing, there's definitely a segment right now where people can capitalize on it. So for example, like right now, some of the sectors that are growing is retail. So online retail, e-commerce is growing. Pet products are growing. Just the other day, I had a phone call with a client that he has testing kits, and he has special sanitizers to sell to like the hospitals and government, things like that. So there's definitely places where people are going to capitalize right now. But for example, like the brick and mortar stores, I mean, yeah, they're getting crushed. They're not selling anything. What I've seen happen is that a lot of these businesses didn't even have a website. When this thing started.
So they got hit even harder.
So they got hit even harder. Some of them were smart. Some of them started a website right away, and they're doing curbside service or things of that matter. But everything's being affected right now for sure. But again, like if you're in the e-commerce space where you're selling specific products or certain services, like for example, financial advising services right now, like they're seeing like great results for PPC campaigns. So there's definitely those spaces where people can capitalize right now, for sure.
People have a lot of time. Like right now,
Right. Mm-hmm.
it's time is either your friend or your enemy at this
Or your
point.
enemy,
Like,
of course.
I know my kids for right now, they're on spring break.
Mm-hmm.
Schools aren't going to be opening up anytime soon. My wife and I also teach during the day. So like for me, I'm still getting up at my 4:30 in the morning. I'm still being productive. And for me, this is some of the greatest time I've ever had to
Right.
be as productive as possible. But I know there's a lot of people out there who are taking it as a vacation, and
Right.
they're taking a step back. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm my biggest fear is their business is going to suffer once we hit
Right.
this rebound, because to me,
Mm-hmm.
this time right now is like worth twice as much as your time was
Right.
before, because
Right.
the productivity amount where everybody else is stopping, you're like zooming forward ahead so much more. And
Right.
not just that, it's just that there's also major changes on what becomes normal. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like on the one hand, there's people who are not going to work and working from home, and on the other hand, I was just talking to somebody a little while ago. I was talking to Brian, and it was like, what if this is the new normal? What if the
Right.
new normal is working from home, and
Right.
you're walking away from your office
Mm-hmm.
space, and you know all these different things that are happening. Um,
Right.
what do you see as we use Zoom more, as we have
Mm-hmm.
people working from home? How do you think that's going to affect a lot of people's day-to-day business?
Mm-hmm. Um, so I think, you know, you said it perfectly. Right now, certain people are taking like a step back approach, and certain people are using this time to capitalize, right? Whether they're learning new skills or taking care of the things that they weren't able to take care, quarantine, just because, uh, you know, we all have a busy lifestyle. Um, I think this is definitely going to show that working from home doesn't mean that productivity needs to go down. I mean,
Hmm.
it's been proven by, companies like Google, Facebook, that have more of like a startup approach, that you can still have a full team work from home and they're still productive. You know, that's what I do with my marketing business. Like, I don't have an office. I don't have face-to-face meetings with the people that I work with. Not even on a weekly basis. We use management tools. We use, Zoom. We all know what we have to do, and we do it, and that's it. The results speak for themselves. So I think this will definitely open up the eyes of a lot of companies to see that it's okay to have people work from home.
How,
Um,
how do you think that's going to affect us competition-wise? Like just your ability to produce mobilely used to be a
mhm,
competitive advantage because you had
mhm,
less overhead and that sort of stuff.
right.
Well,
Hmm.
now if bigger businesses are realizing that, holy crap, this is
Hmm.
actually a good thing, a blessing in disguise, how do you think that's
Hmm.
going to affect us, the little guy, when they start,
Hmm.
implementing a lot of the similar strategies?
Um, So I think the way that I would see it affecting is obviously that they would take more of the market. So, for example, let's say that there's a big company that does marketing services, and all of a sudden they realize, holy shit, we can have a full team working from home, and we don't even need an office. We can take on more work, right? Why?
Mm.
Because we can hire more people, because they don't need to come into the office. They just work from home, so it's less overhead. Um, yeah, they can definitely start eating up more of the market, but at the same time, I think that there's a product out there for everybody. There's a niche for everything. Like, and some businesses like working with those more boutique, marketing agencies, or freelancers, or people that are like, that have like a very specific skill set, and they focus on just one vertical, right?
Hmm.
Uh, so for example, for me, when I started in the marketing, like, I started trying to cover up everything, like, social media marketing, organic, PPC, content, just a ton of different avenues that at the end it just becomes kind of counterproductive, and you start
So
spending
spread
more
thin.
money. Yeah, you're so spread thin. So it's like, now I've narrowed down my service to like uh PPC, and I still have to fine tune it. So yeah, I think maybe some of the markets will get eaten up by the bigger players. But at the same time, I think there will still be something for everybody out there. So it's just a matter of each, business going back to the drawing board and saying, like, okay, like, this is really my niche. This is what I want to focus on, and just going out there and getting it.
All right, let's turn this into a little bit a funner topic, less business topic. What are
Okay.
you doing, or what's your household doing for fun to try to pass the time when you're
Yeah.
stuck inside, you can't go
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
birthdays, parties, that sort of stuff?
Uh-huh. You know what, man, to be honest with you, like I told you earlier, like I love being at home, my girlfriend loves being at home too. So we have no issue being at home, for us, the biggest things that we do for fun is, you know, we've been ordering pizza, watching Netflix. We've just been sitting here and, conversating while we have some wine. Um, so, for us, it doesn't matter what we're doing. We're always having fun, like
All
if
right,
we're
then.
just we're
If it's
just
the
sitting here doing
Netflix,
nothing. Yeah.
what's been the Netflix show?
Ozark. They just came out with a new season. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen Ozark. I
Yeah.
keep getting
Oh
recommended, but
man,
I just haven't.
I I,
It's hard
I
for me to get
recommend.
get the
Yeah,
time to sit down and do like a whole binge. Like
right.
usually I'll pick like a Sunday or something. I'll do
Hmm.
laundry and all that stuff, and like I'll sit and I'll watch, crush out like a couple episodes.
Uh-huh.
But like during the week, it's tough. But
Yeah.
I
We have.
watched.
Yeah.
I did watch that Tiger King.
Mm. We haven't seen that. I saw the previews, but I didn't even know what it was about until yesterday. Actually, we were talking with my girlfriend, and she showed me a picture on social media of there's this kombucha brand,
Hmm.
and I guess they just came out with a can that has like the entire look of the show. But I haven't seen it at all. So, but I mean, that's a great marketing strategy for them, because they're getting attention. It's something that's trending, and it's probably going to go viral, So
Yeah. Well, I'm sure since you have time, you're gonna watch it. But I can promise you this: you will be dumber after having watched that show.
yeah, yeah. See, I don't like those kind of shows. I'm very picky with the stuff that we watch. Like, it has to be like a very good show, whether it has to do with like business or like, for example, this business, or this show, like it has to do with narcos. But I I admire
It's
narcos
still
because of the way
business.
it's still business. Like a lot of people talk shit about narcos and things of that matter. But if you think about it, I mean, they innovate. They come up with solutions. So I think that's admirable. So
Well, we look down upon the assassinations and the murders
right,
part,
right, right,
but
right.
you're right. It's still a business. A business is a
It's still
business. You got to
business,
get
right?
product from
Mm-hmm.
creation
Point.
to
Yep.
consumer. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
you're
Yeah.
absolutely right, and it is
Yep.
fascinating, and
Yeah.
there is a market for that. And
Right.
there's like anything else. There's risk and reward, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they're risking a lot more, but they're also reaping some massive rewards.
Right.
Their endings might not be that great,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
it's still, and it's definitely interesting. I mean, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
sex, rock, and alcohol, right? Like
Yeah.
alcohol, drugs, sex, rock and roll, all that stuff. Like, it's
Yeah.
interesting. Like you
Yeah. Of
can't
course.
not watch.
Right. Of
It's
course.
still a look, right?
Yeah.
All right. No, dude. I mean, that's kind of what's been irking people, I guess. It's either I'm being super productive or I'm not being
Mm-hmm.
productive. But on the one hand, on the other hand, it's like, I've been working my ass off,
Mm-hmm.
but I also got to make sure I hit the pause button
Right.
and spend that time with family, spend that time
Right.
with my kids or
Mm-hmm.
with the wife, um, and making sure that I even like now, like my wife doesn't want the kids going out at all. So like
Right.
I know I'm gonna probably head out to Walmart today at some point, either today or
Don't do
tomorrow.
it.
Well, but I got to get stuff right. But at the same
Right.
time, it's like scary out there for
Mm-hmm.
me more so because when you're walking around and you see people with gloves and with masks, like that freaks me out more than than the whole idea of
The
getting
actual thing.
infected.
Right.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
You walk in the store and it's like military, like stand on the X, move to the
Right.
next X, and everybody's like freaked out. Nobody wants to talk to each other. That sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, this is like a very controversial, topic, like the times that we're going through. Uh, but I mean, this has definitely exposed a lot of shit. Like it's exposed like the fact that as a society, we still don't give a shit about each other. Like look at what happened the first few weeks. Like people just went crazy and they just went to the store and
They
they
went to
just
the
grabbed
beach.
everything. They went to the beach. They went to go grab everything out of the store. The stores didn't do anything. It wasn't until everything ran out that they started putting up signs that said like, "Hey, like
One at a time.
one at a
One per
time."
family. Yeah.
Yeah, one per family. So that, and then the fact that people can't be home. Like that people can't do social disconnection. Like people need to be out in order to be happy. I mean, to me, that just means that maybe, up here in your head, you're not that, in
Well,
control.
all I know is by this time next year, there's going to be either more marriages or divorces,
Right.
and probably a lot more kids.
A lot more kids for sure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's gonna be some crazy times, man. It's gonna be some
Yeah.
crazy times. I don't know what they're gonna call this next generation, like Generation X or whatever. It's probably gonna be
Yeah.
like, I don't know, Corona generation or something. Coroni.
Generation COVID-19. Yeah. Generation Corona. Yeah.
Yeah, Corona
Yeah.
generation. Who knows, man? Hey, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show, dude. I really appreciate you
Of
taking the
course,
time to
man.
come on here,
Thanks for
sharing
having
your
me.
story, and you know what? Stay safe out there. Enjoy the Netflix, and
We'll do. We'll do.
and lastly, if anybody wants to work with you, get a hold of you, what's the best way
Mhm.
for them to do that?
You guys can shoot me an email at raul@teamrgrdesign.com, or they can shoot me a text or give me a call. If you want, I can send you my info so you can put it on the video, because I mean, you distribute this on YouTube, Facebook, and
Mhm.
audio as well. Yeah, yeah, I can just send you all my links, and if they want to work with me, they can just reach out, and that's it.
Perfect. All right, man. Ladies and gents, that's all we got for you guys today. Stay safe out there. Peace.
Cool. Thanks, man. Have a great one. Stay safe.
And we're out.
Cool.